Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Real Franchise, a podcast that goes where others simply won't. An unfiltered view of franchising, business, mindset, and everything that we stand for when it comes to supporting a community of small business owners. Join me, Rhiannon, the CEO for James Home Services, and Justin, one of our owners, as we unpack it all with no topics off limits. And today I'm throwing straight to you, Justin, to introduce the topic that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, I had an interesting question thrown at me, and I would love to see, as our CEO, how you would answer it. The question was a good one. It was quite simply, so what do you do when your business is not going the way you want it to go?
Big question. There's a lot of different avenues to go down on this one, and I think we keep the answer logical and progressive. The first step is actually simply acknowledging that you have an issue. And yes. Social media is a wonderful place that shares lots of business information. But if you're building a business based on the advice and guidance from social media, then you're probably being told that if you notice your business struggling, you know, you've just got to fix one thing, or there's this magic cure for something and it's this, you know. And so there's so much noise that business owners are hearing these days. And so you have to first acknowledge that you actually have an issue. Now, this is actually the hardest part for most first-time small business owners, because sometimes in a small business, it's harder to spot the problems than when you have problems in a big business. When you have problems in a big business, they're really obvious. If you're running out of cash, it's really obvious. If you're not generating leads, super obvious. If your sales team aren't converting, very obvious, right? If you're in a larger business, problems can be easier to spot. What I experience in our network and also in my previous roles as business consultant, I've worked with all size businesses, I've run businesses, I've started businesses, I've consulted to businesses, small, medium, large, all sorts of industries, international, national, everything. And in my experience, particularly when you're a small business, the biggest and the first sign that you're in trouble is that you're using revenue from today's sales to pay yesterday's bills. So, for example, you know, you make a sale today, and instead of using that for tomorrow's stock and tomorrow's bills, you're going, oh my God, thank goodness, and now I can pay the lease on my warehouse. Or you're using your personal cash to pay for, you know, meta ads, or you're using your credit card as a cash flow buffer. Or you know that you've got 3 bills that are due at the end of this week, and you're watching your bank account like a hawk, and you feel sick because there's not enough money in that bank account to pay those bills by the time they're due. And you're just hoping, you know, the fingers crossed method is your business strategy for bill payment. You're just hoping that enough invoices are going to be paid in the next 48 hours that you can pay those bills. And a little bit of this is okay when you're a brand new business and when it's planned, when it's expected, and when you can catch yourself up fully very quickly. But the problem arises more so when the time gap between when you receive an invoice that needs paying and when you actually pay it starts creeping out and out and out and out. That is your first sign that your business is struggling. And the first thing you need to do when you spot something like that happening is you need to acknowledge it. You cannot sit back and say, oh, it's the economy. Oh, the RBA just raised interest rates for a second time in a row. It's that, you know. I mean, you and I have heard all of the rationalizations that exist in this world for why businesses fail. And frankly, that's all they are. They're excuses. A business fails when you fundamentally don't have your product or service right, and you don't have your marketing right, and you're not generating leads and you're not making sales. So acknowledgement is the first step.
And I think the challenge I've observed for so many of us in a small business is that when we're in that situation, I've just got to work harder. I've just got to put in more hours. It's a small business and this is normal. And the problem is, if there's a problem and you don't acknowledge it, you can work harder and harder and harder, can't you? And the problem's still there, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to be magnified.
I think indeed that's another dead giveaway. If you're working harder and harder and harder in your business, but you're not actually seeing more profit being generated, that's a darn good sign. You just become an employee in your own business, because your job when you own a business is not necessarily to be the person doing absolutely everything. Your job is growth. Your job is business development. Your growth is leadership. Your job is leadership and strategy, risk management, financial management. If you're on the tools every single day of the week, banging your head against a wall, taking on more and more and more, and if you're taking back operational tasks that your team should be doing, that's another dead giveaway that you're headed for some big challenges ahead.
Yep. Yes.
I think once you acknowledge that there's a problem, the next logical step is you need to identify exactly what that problem is. And I'm going to go back to social media again for a moment, because I spend a fair bit of time on social media. It's a really helpful medium, but it can also be equally destructive. And just in the last few weeks, a lot of content has been served to me where creators are telling small business owners, this is like business owner self-help content, and creators are telling small business owners, just fix this one thing. You just need to fix your marketing and you just need to fix your sales. That's all. Sales cures all. Marketing cures all. As long as you get that sorted, you'll be fine. As if whatever issue you're having in your business will be solved by either marketing or sales. And look, no shade, they're not wrong. Most of the time, one of those things is a contributor. But if you're generating leads, that means your marketing's working. If you're making sales, you're converting, then your sales process is working. If you're actually doing those things, but you're still experiencing struggle in your business, doing more of these things is just going to compound the issue, because the issue is structural.
Yes.
And in my experience, where a lot of businesses actually fail is, we all talk about growth pains, right? You've probably heard about it. I've talked about it quite a lot with our company. Sometimes you probably feel like I'm pumping the brakes on growth, right? And the reason is because it's kind of naive just to think that if everything's going along okay, then it's right to increase marketing and sales. You really have to have your ducks in a row. You have to have your ops down. You have to have your HR down. You have to have your systems down. You have to be healthy from a financial standpoint. All of those things play a role. And if you don't have everything else in place and working, then just adding more marketing and more sales is only going to add more chaos to the situation.
Yep. Very true. Yeah. I think if there's a problem and you scale and grow, the problem grows as well.
Yeah.
It's just natural, isn't it?
It is. And when we talk about growing pains, you're trying to scale a business, you're trying to take it from a small business to a medium business, or you're trying to scale a medium enterprise into a large enterprise. When we talk about growing pains, it's not always sales and marketing. Often it's these other structural things. And you've got to actually figure out exactly where the problem is coming from before you do anything else. And so if you're listening to this and you've got a business, or you're thinking about starting a business, or you're thinking about joining a franchise network to start a business, if anybody gives you the advice, if you're struggling at sales or marketing, don't.
Yeah.
They're not really super knowledgeable. They're not looking at the full picture. No. So how do you identify where the issue is? Well, this is complex, right? This is why business consultants exist, because structural issues in medium and large scaling businesses can be very complex to identify. And you've got to look at things like, you've got to start with pricing. You've got to start with looking at your margins. You've got to look at your cash flow. You've got to examine your expenses. By the way, if you're scared to look at your financial information, that's your problem right there.
Yep.
Full stop. If you are fearful of opening your management accounts in your accounting software because you don't know the story that they're telling you about your business, that's your problem.
Yep.
Go and find someone to help you learn how to read a P&L.
Yeah.
Because your finances tell you the story of your business.
And I think for so many small businesses, it really falls into two categories. Like most small business owners have the technical expertise. You know, they might have been a brilliant mechanic, so they've opened their own mechanic shop, or, you know, that translates to all sorts of industries. So from the technical side, I think most business owners will have that gut feel and know roughly where the issue is, right? So you'll probably, if you're a business owner listening, you'll probably have a rough idea. But don't just rely on only that, because on the other side of the scales is this big thing I think you're talking about is, I always say, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know you've just been working with a situation where, you know, someone's got a lot of technical expertise, but on the other side, you know, may not be so receptive or knowledgeable.
Mm.
And that's the challenge that's in their business.
Yeah.
You know, and it's being prepared to be teachable, I guess, to find someone who can help, to have who's outside of the forest that can have a look in and go, well, actually, here's a couple of really things that aren't right.
Yeah.
You know, and being prepared to make that step, be humble enough to go hat in hand.
Yeah. You've also just got to be really honest with yourself. Like, when you're trying to identify where the issue is in your business, you have to ask yourself a series of questions and then be very prepared to answer them honestly. You know, the first question is, does the market genuinely want what I'm selling? Is there real demand? Now, I don't mean that in your opinion, would you buy from yourself? I don't mean would your mum buy from you or your best friend. I mean, are there real customers out there prepared to part with cash to do business with you? If there isn't, you've got a fundamental problem in that you can't sell something that the market doesn't want. Selling ice to the Eskimos is a term thrown around in, as a joke all of the time. But if you are trying to sell ice to the Eskimos, it's very difficult. They don't need it. They don't want it. No matter how good your price is, no matter how good your pitch is, no matter how great your marketing is, they don't want it. If the market doesn't want what you're selling, well, you need to go back to the drawing board and revisit what your product or your service is. The second question, which I would encourage you to spend more time, is if you answered yes to the first, there's demand for your product or your service, then we're here. We've got demand. This over here is the finish line of a completed sale. If there is demand, but you're not making sales in your business, there is something in here preventing the person with demand from walking through your process and buying from your business. Now, it could be pricing, it could be customer experience, it could be that your website's rubbish, it could be that there wasn't enough information online so that they built enough trust, it could be that you weren't findable online, it could be a million things, frankly. And it could be as simple as your website's okay, but they got to the end and they put all the things they wanted in the cart, but you didn't offer them 10% on their first purchase, and so they abandoned cart. Or you didn't have the right payment method for them, so they abandoned cart. In our businesses, often what's going on in here comes down to responsiveness and customer service. So we're in the service industry, as probably everybody listening is aware. We operate cleaning and lawn and garden care businesses. And so, you know, some of the common things that we see going wrong in here, if someone's not buying, it's people aren't getting back to their inquiries fast enough. They're not skilled enough on the phone at educating the person as to why we do a face-to-face quote appointment, why we quote by the task and not by an hourly rate. The customer experience just isn't where it needs to be. There's not enough trust built. There's not enough rapport built. The person operating the business asks questions but then talks over the top of somebody. It could be any number of things that are going on in there. So it could be costs, it could be your margins, but it also could be something as simple as responsiveness and the customer experience that you're delivering.
Yeah. And I think visually, if people are trying to understand what we're saying here, to me, the hospitality industry, if you go to any Esplanade, I'm going out with friends tonight to the Esplanade on the Gold Coast for dinner. You can stand on the Esplanade and look up left and right, all these different restaurants, places to eat. Some of them would just be packed and humming, and right next door, they'll be dead. Like there'll be no one in the and you can sit, you go to any place like that in the country, and you'll see like this demand. They're in the same industry, doing the same sort of business, but why is one obviously and the other? And it's these sort of things I think we're talking about that translate into other businesses. There's something going on there that they haven't got right. And until they sit down and go, okay, we need to change. I had this great idea. I thought, an Ethiopian restaurant in this place would really hit it off. It hasn't. What have I got to do to make this work?
Yeah. And this is the part where you've got to be brutally honest with yourself. If you go easy on yourself and you make excuses, people just go to the one next door because that plays louder music, or people just go to the one next door because their prices are $5 cheaper a meal. Or if you sit there and you make excuses and rationalize why it is that they're there and they're not in your restaurant, or they're at their competitor's business and not at yours, you're never going to see growth in your business, because guess what? Now you've become the problem.
Yes.
You've become the structural issue. You can't outmarket your own mindset. You can't outsell your own mindset. Businesses that are successful, in my experience, have business owners that are prepared to listen to market feedback, no matter how brutal it is. And indeed, that's what we did, right? We did that in our model. The reason we have a subscription model is because we listened to market feedback, and the feedback was, well, yeah, we want to own our own businesses and we want the support when we join a network that a network would give us. But no, we're not putting all the risk down on the table straight up. We're not parting with cold hard cash to do this. You need to invest in us. When we went out to the market and we genuinely listened, the market clearly said to us, yes, we want what you're selling, but no, the way you're currently offering it doesn't work for me. Sorry, it did 5 years ago, but now I don't like it. Yeah. Now I would like to pay as I go. Now I would like to put it on Afterpay. Now I want all of the benefits, but not the responsibility at the same degree. If we'd have ignored that advice or that market feedback, we would be in a very different position to what we are now. And I think that's advice to any business owner listening. You are the roadblock if you're not prepared to listen to what the market is telling you. The market will be honest with you. It's up to you to listen, and even if it's brutal, you have to listen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. As we were discussing, I was thinking, this is our story. Like, I remember when we bought it, when I went through the process and bought this business with Darren, and then I was the general manager running and I came in very clear. There were 3 things this business needed to have fixed that would turn it around and everything would be wonderful and would grow this massive company. And I did those 3 things. We did those 3 things. And they were all good things, but the results didn't change. And so, like you said, we then had to, we put you into the role, let you loose, and you went to market and did all these things that we're talking about now.
Yeah. I listened to market. I asked 2 questions. Is there demand? Yes, no. Fundamentally, yes. Yes, there's demand for self-employment, right? And then so I knew that the problem was sitting in here somewhere.
Yeah.
I knew the problem was that in some way, shape or form, our business model wasn't meeting the expectations of the market. And it was tough to hear, right? It was tough for you and I to sit down, look at our business model and go, okay, well, we may as well just screw that all up and throw it out the window because people don't want that anymore. That's really confronting. It's terrifying because, we were in a position of adopting a completely new business model that the industry had never seen before, our subscription model, completely new to industry. Still, no one else in the industry doing it. It's very confronting, and it's a high-risk activity to throw out what you thought was working and to start again. But frankly, that's why we're here. That's why we are now a medium-sized business scaling rapidly, because we were prepared to listen to market feedback and then fix it. Because that's the third part, right? You've got to acknowledge there's a problem. You've got to then identify exactly what the problem is, but then you've got to be prepared to do the hard yards to fix it. Now, this is effort. This is reps. This is, just dogged determination to make it work at whatever it takes. And there's nothing sexy about the amount of work it takes to pull a business out of struggle street. We do such a good job in this country of glorifying business ownership and glorifying turnaround and change. And it's hard. It's hard and it's messy, and you have days where you feel great and like you're making progress, and you have days where you feel like you've made absolutely no progress at all, and you may as well just hand in notice. Like, there are days that just feel like you're beaten. But you must pursue that fix like your life depends on it. Otherwise, your business will fail.
Yeah. And I think the big life lesson for me through this journey has been that if you're in a business and you think you've sorted it, you think you've got it, or you think you don't have a problem, everything's just rosy. Well, guess what? There's one coming, right?
Yeah,
you have to be constantly. It's like working out, right? It's like the human body. You have to constantly be evolving, changing, growing, doing. If you just sit back and take it, that I've made this thing, this is perfect, my customers love me, my business is going great. Well, guess what? Your customers are moving and you're not.
Yeah, correct.
You've got to be constantly have everything in your business up for change, up for improvement. What can we do better? If you're constantly looking, okay, well, what's holding us back? Fixing those things. It's an ever-evolving thing. You never make it.
No, that's right. And the minute you think you have is the minute you drop your guard. And that's when your competitors sail past you and you don't even realise, right?
Exactly.
Honestly, the number of times that you and I and Darren have sat in a room and said, everything is cards up on a table at all times for change.
Yep.
That is a mentality that sees success. That is a mentality that can confront challenge and overcome it. That is a mentality that sees you surpassing your competitors, that sees you developing a product or a service that the market actually wants to consume. That is the mentality that you have to approach business with. You've never made it. Made it.
And that's uncomfortable.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. You know what? There is a degree to which when you either own a business or when you're operating a business or in any kind of senior or leadership position in a business, there is a point you reach where you just go, I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable every single day for the rest of the time that I do this role. Full stop. And it gets easier. I promise you, it gets easier. It gets way easier. I sort of every now and then I think about what I do on a day-to-day basis and the level of stress that must just be existent in my body for me to function the way that I do. And I manage stress exceptionally well. I never feel stressed. But I remember my dad saying to me a few months ago, we must have been having a conversation about what I do day to day. And he was like, how are you not pulling your hair out every single day? How are you sitting down having a normal conversation with me about this stuff? How are you actually surviving? And I thought about it and I thought, well, I think you just get very used to dealing with a certain level of discomfort and stress. It becomes normal. And I think it's very healthy to actually know how to manage comfort and distress in your own body. And that's part of being a business owner or any sort of senior or executive level leadership is you've got to understand how to self-regulate these feelings for yourself, because it is confronting and it exists. And part of being successful is knowing how to control it, because it's always going to sit there. Yeah.
And there is always a solution. It does not matter what you're in. What your business is going through, there is a solution.
Yep. And to bring it back to our businesses, in our network, the solution is honestly a solution that we've already uncovered 1,000 times before for business owners before you. At this point, there's no problem that arises in any of our businesses that I haven't seen before. There's no cause that I have never seen before. There's no, root issue that we've never fixed before. The beauty of a franchise network is that, it's not just you trying to figure out, do you have a problem? What's the problem? And then how on earth do I fix it? In a franchise network, we have 100 other businesses also operating at any one given point in time. And, historically, hundreds of businesses that have moved in and out of our network, we've seen it all before. So we can acknowledge the problem probably before our business owners can, which means that we get it early, which means that it's easier to identify.
Yeah.
And it's easier to fix too.
Yeah.
So if this discussion has felt very confronting for you, then maybe a franchise network is a really good thing to be researching, because honestly, that's part of the value we bring to the table. We've done this before. This is our day job. We know how to help you navigate all of the challenges that are a small business in our network.
And we have systems for all of those challenges. We have a business case that will work with you. Okay, so like the question, if it's not going the way you want it, okay, let's sit down. Your business coach will go through this with you. Let's identify, what is the problem? Is there a problem? What is it? And then, okay, here's the system. Here's how it gets fixed. Let's work on it together. That's what we do.
Yeah, it's simple. We have a system that works when it's implemented, and that also means that when it's not working, you just simply look at the system and you pinpoint which part of the system isn't being plugged into at this point in time. And then you plug it in and you get results. It's beautifully simple.
Very good.
Well, on that very simple note, let's wrap this conversation here. I hope that for anybody interesting, it's been insightful, and I hope that you might join us for another episode of The Real Franchise very soon.